front of the Schuyler-Hamilton House. And the story of this house is, it was built by Dr. Campfield. When Washington comes here, this is during the second winter encampment, which went from December of 1779 to June of 1780. Washington's chief physician also stayed in this house with his wife. Their niece, Elizabeth or Betsy Schuyler, is invited to come down and spend the winter with them. Meanwhile, Alexander Hamilton is just down the street at the Ford Mansion. He and Betsy court, and they eventually marry in December of 1780. They then wrote a Broadway play and they made millions of dollars. Just kidding. Alexander Hamilton becomes Washington's chief of staff all through the war. After the war, one of Washington's, if not Washington's most trusted ally. In 1787, we have the Constitutional Convention. And when this is all said and done, we have a new Constitution, a new one, because we had an earlier one called the Articles of Confederation. Now, we have this new Constitution, and it calls for a number of things. Washington, in 1791, in that period of time, turns to Hamilton and says, "Our country's finances are an absolute nightmare. I need you to straighten this all out." And Hamilton comes up with this plan called the Assumption of the Debt, where he's going to call in all the debt, and we're talking a lot of debt, not only locally or in North America, the States, but also Europe. I mean, we owed money everywhere, and the money here that we're printing becomes more and more worthless, which makes us very weak and might empower another country to try to overtake us, so that we're right back where we started from before the war. At any rate, Hamilton comes up with this terrific plan, but he can't get it passed through Congress. Now, there are political factions, political parties, they weren't necessarily called that at the time, but they're there. And his opposition in this plan being approved by Congress is James Madison, who wants this new federal government to be basically just to have enough power to do what's necessary, but leave everything else at the state level. So he does not want to have this government in charge of, among other things, a bank, a national federal bank. So there's this battle going on in Congress, and Hamilton cannot get his financial plan approved. So he's in New York, and as it just so happens, he runs into Thomas Jefferson. And Jefferson says, "Mr. Hamilton, are you okay? You don't look well." And Hamilton explains to Jefferson that he's trying to get this financial plan passed, and he can't because Mr. Madison is objecting. And so Jefferson says, "Let me think about this." And then eventually Jefferson has a dinner, and there's just three people there: Jefferson, Madison, and Hamilton. And they come up with a compromise. Now, for those of you who have seen the play Hamilton, or maybe you've heard the music, there is a song, "The Room Where It Happened." Well, this is what is happening in the room where it happened. Hamilton, Jefferson, and Madison work out a compromise. And the compromise is this. Now, we have our new Constitution. And in this new Constitution, the capital of the United States is going to have a permanent location. And every state wants this location. So the compromise is, Madison says, "Mr. Hamilton, we will support your financial program." And Hamilton says, "Mr. Madison, we will support our nation's new permanent capital to be in the South." And that is how Washington, D.C. comes to be where it is located today, the result of a compromise. So Alexander Hamilton becomes our first Secretary of the Treasury. You all see his picture on a $10 bill. So if you are an Alexander Hamilton fan, I would strongly suggest, if you're in Morristown, New Jersey, stop by here and take a look at the house. The docents inside are wonderfully knowledgeable, and you'll come away with a lot of information about Alexander Hamilton and Betsy Schuyler.